JDiv is back at it here to give everyone another UFC predictions video. In this particular video, I'm going to be giving my predictions for the upcoming UFC 261 card that's going to be live and on ESPN Plus on April 24th, where there's going to be 100% capacity of fans in Florida. It's going to be great, and we got three title fights to talk about, and I'm just going to be talking about the main card. So let's start this off. In the UFC light heavyweight division, we have Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute. I haven't seen a betting line. I haven't even looked for a betting line. I would venture to say that Jimmy Crute is probably the favorite going into this fight, if there is a betting line yet. But my money is on Anthony Smith. Because obviously Anthony Smith has lost a lot of fights. He lost against John Jones. He lost against Glover Teixeira. He lost against Alexander Rakic. And then I think he might have had another loss after that, but he did win his last fight. And he hasn't looked all that impressive, to be honest with you, in any of those fights. But I do believe that Anthony Smith is going to win this fight, because I truly believe that he is a top contender in the UFC light heavyweight division. And that is my prediction for that fight. Next up in the UFC middleweight division, we have Uriah Hall versus the former middleweight champion of the world. And it seems like forever ago that this guy was the middleweight champion of the world. And that would be Chris Weidman. This is the second time they fought. They fought a long time ago, and Chris Weidman had won that fight. Now, Uriah Hall is a special kind of talent. He has so many weapons, but the problem is, I think Uriah Hall, he still doesn't have the focus on which weapon to use. He just goes for every little thing, and he doesn't really know what to use at any given time. And I think if Chris Weidman utilizes wrestling a lot in this fight, which I'm sure Uriah Hall's camp is preparing him for, I think Chris Weidman will win this fight. I do believe he'll take Uriah Hall down and beat him up on the mat. Of course, I could be really wrong on that, but I like both of these fighters. But I just think Chris Weidman has got a really good skill, where Uriah Hall's got too many weapons and he doesn't know what weapon to use. He does have an amazing knockout, that Ultimate Fighter knockout. That was crazy. But I'm picking Chris Weidman, obviously. I think he wins, and hopefully Weidman gets a top 10 guy. I think he can truly make it back to a championship fight. It's going to take a lot, and he lost a lot of fights in a row, but I think Weidman can get there. He just needs to stay focused and work on what works for him. You know, go with what works for him. Go with the wrestling, because that's what got him in this situation. Next up in the women's flyweight division, a title fight. The challenger, Jessica Andrade, versus the reigning, defending women's flyweight champion of the world and assassin, Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, Andrade does have power. She's a little short, but she comes after you. She beat Rose, but I don't think she stands a chance against Valentina Shevchenko, just because Shevchenko is so skilled, so talented. And then other than a couple fights against Amanda Nunes, she's pretty much looked unstoppable. So I'm going to go with Valentina in this particular fight. I think she wins, and who knows who's going to fight her next. But I think she needs to move up to like a super fight. Maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody I'm about to talk about. So Valentina is going to win this fight. Don't count Jessica Andrade out, but I just think that she's going to be overmatched in this one. And then next up in the women's strawweight division, we have the challenger, a former champion in her own mind, Rose Namajunas, versus the reigning, defending strawweight champion of the world, Zhang Weili. I don't know if Weili has recovered from her last war that she had with Joanna Jędrzejczyk in March of 2020, right before everything took a shit on us. But because of that performance, and I don't want to underestimate Namajunas, I think Zhang Weili wins this fight. I expect it may be a war. It's possible, but I just think Weili is really good, and I had underestimated her before, and she's the real deal. She is tough. She took some shots. No, Joanna Jędrzejczyk doesn't necessarily have huge power behind her shots, but she took some vicious shots, and she lived to tell about it. And look at how bad Jędrzejczyk looked after that fight, even though she did great. I thought Joanna won that fight, but it was so close. Like, it was hard to keep track of who was doing what. So I'm picking Weili to win this fight, and hopefully it's a good fight. And then in our main event of the evening, for all the marbles in the UFC welterweight division, we have the challenger Jorge Masvidal versus the reigning, defending, undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, Kamaru Usman. This is their second fight. They had their first encounter on the first Fight Island card, which Kamaru Usman dominated, but Masvidal took the fight on 7 days' notice, I think it was, or was it 11? It's one of the two. I really don't see any way this fight goes different. I don't think Masvidal is that great. I kind of agree with Colby Covington. I think he's a jobber. He's lost a lot of fights. He looked good in a couple fights. He beat Ben Askren with the running knee. That was pretty cool. But I don't know. He beat Nate Diaz, but I don't know. Diaz looks like he's fallen off a bit. All those punches by Conor McGregor knocked him senseless a bit. But I think Kamaru Usman wins this fight. I think he can strike with Masvidal, which people don't think he can. He definitely can out-wrestle Masvidal, and I think he wins this fight. Obviously, he's going to want to knock him out, and don't underestimate Kamaru Usman, because he is, you got to classify him as almost a GOAT at this point. Maybe not GSP level, but he's getting close. He's close to like the Khabib GSP level, maybe after a couple more fights, but he is definitely the real deal, and I'm damn impressed with Usman since the fight that he had with Colby Covington, and then the fight he had against Masvidal, and then the fight he had against Gilbert Burns. He's looked really impressive in all the fights, and I think he'll look impressive in this particular fight. So let's recap all my predictions. I'm going with Anthony Smith. I'm going with Chris Weidman. I'm going with Valentina Shevchenko, and I'm obviously going with Zhang Weili, and then I'm picking Kamaru Usman to defend his title against Jorge Masvidal. So, you've heard what I have to say about this card. Obviously, I want to hear your predictions. So, leave them in the comments section. If you want to talk about some prelim fights, you're welcome to do that as well. Tell me how excited you are about this card for UFC, especially with fans in the building. You're going to hear a lot of oohs and ahs, hopefully. That's the plan. You never know when that's not going to happen, though. Just when you think it's going to happen, it doesn't. But definitely leave me a comment in the comment section about this card or other cards that you're looking forward to and predictions for those fights. And if you're a fan of the UFC and you like the UFC, go ahead and smash that like button. If you know anybody that would be interested in this particular video, go ahead and share it with them. Make sure you leave those comments. And last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.